이걸 코드로 간다고. 1버스는 그걸로 할까? 1버스는 아니 맥스의 스노화이트 무비 1버스 비타 이런 식으로 해가지고 똑같은 분말을 해서
사원에 접근 중입니다, 페트라.
알겠다. 대기하겠다.
되게 되니까 잘 나오더랬죠. 그런 거 같아요. 기억도면 아니더라도 어느 정도 쓸 수 있게
안으로 가고 있어요.
재밌는 기믹인 애들이 많아서 그럴 여유가 없는 거지. 작년만 하다도 이렇게 거의 가격대가 얘기하면은 이거 좀 이전에 자체는 메인도 그렇게 빨리 나오는 편도 아니었고 나머지 소스도 막 그렇게 재밌지 않아가지고 기믹도 빨리 덜 완성된 기믹. 근데 2023년 동안 니케가 굉장히 많이 발전한 거야. 확실하게 노선이 있었잖아. 스토리 같습니다. 일반 서브 스토리 같은 거에도 서빙을 줬고. 너 부하를 7초도 한 다음에 오버로드 강화 다 해버리지. 웬만한 흥력과 다 뺐으니까 오버로드 수치 포함일걸? 오버로드도 4줄 다 공정 맞춰가지고
여기서 사원 밑바닥으로 갈 수 있어요. 어머해 주세요.
끝나고 님 왜 이렇게 약함? 조합 가능하지. 모든 버프 다 조합하지. 그런 게 뭐야.
나만 믿고 있으면
진짜 할 거 없는 건 다른 게임하고도 마찬가지인데.
아 방송을 시작해야 돼.
남의 아이디를 쓰는 아이디는 우리가 좋아하는 사람이 뭐 나중에 네이버에서 이제 따로 어떻게 된다고 모르겠고 일단 무서워. 그게 아니라면 그냥 모르는 사람들 빨리 찜해놨어야 그러니까 뺏는다는 말은 난 잘못됐다고 생각해. 더 빨랐어야지. 보다 다르다.
소리가 쓰러졌습니다.
다들 잘하네. 목표 그냥 다 가면 돼.
멈춰서 잠깐만 되게 무시해. 잠깐만 알잘딱 한단적으로 그냥 수호자 짬밥으로 그냥 알잘딱 하면 돼.
인증 나오면
뭐 이렇게 막 엄청 막 무서워하면서 막
봅니다.
적이 어디에 있고 우리 편이 어디에 있고 어디에서 뭘 하고 있고 이거를 항상 또 봐가면서 그때 걸만은 했고.
계정 주소 알려줘요. 네, 계정 주소
5분밖에 안 걸리고 이게 황금아이 그랜드마스터인지 전설인지 모르겠고 아주 쾌적하게 화면 좀 오래 쓰지 마.
이러고 나면은 맞아. 근데 왜 팔로워가 안 들어오지? 다음날 시간으로 안 늘어나는 거야. 아니면 했는데 그런 것도 있어. 한 시간마다 어때요? 오늘은 사실 휴방을 하려 했어. 너무 피곤해서. 어제는 하루 종일 누워있었어, 거의. 없이 상태였고. 그래서 그리고 오늘은 좀 일어나서 이제 집을 좀 치웠지. 집을 좀 치우고 오늘도 쉴까 했는데 그냥 좀 짧게 하려고 했는데 그래서 오늘은 아마 일찍 갈 것 같아요. 오늘 생존 신고만 하고 새해 인사하려고 왔어요. 짧게 101등 켜나가자고? 오늘은 진짜 일찍 갈 거야. 나 일찍 자기로 했어, 올해는. 맨날 이 새벽에 이제 자다 보니까 바이오 리듬이가 너무 불규칙해.
오.
내가 어디 인터넷에서 어디서 봤지? 기억이 잘 안 나는데 그런 게 있어.
진짜
30분만 갑자기 그거 보니까 갑자기 하면서 이제 뭔가 깨달음이 오더라고요. 내가 그러면서 이제 그러니까 이게 뭔 소리냐면 해서는 될 말이 있고 안 될 말이 있는데 머릿속에 있는 말 다 한다는 거야. 그러니까 그게 맞는데 이러면서 이제 상황이 안 맞는, 그러니까 분위기상 안 맞는 말을 자기는 옳다고 생각해서 말한다는 거야. 그러니까 그거 보면서 이제 역시 그래서 내가 이러면서 갑자기 깨달음이 갑자기 탁 오는 거야. 그러니까 이제 정상인은 상황이 안 그러니까 이 분위기에 해서는 안 될 말이 있잖아. 그런 말을 보통 안 하는데 그게 맞다고 해도. 근데 이제 집단은 이제 이게 맞는 말이기 때문에 맞는 말이니까 해도 돼 이러면서 한다는 거야. 근데 그게 이제 그 상황에서는 해서는 안 되는 말인데도 불구하고 이게 일단 맞는 말이거든. 그래서 나는 맞는 말이니까 한다 이러면서 이제 그래서 나는 거기서 이제 씨발 저거 난데? 그 올해는 이제 좀 그러지 않기로 했습니다. 네. 저도 하고 싶은 말 다 안 하기로 했어요. 이게 맞는 것 같아요. 하고 싶은 말이 아니라 상황이 안 맞는 하고 싶은 말 안 하기로 했어. 그런 거지. 근데 뭐 완전히 고쳐지진 않겠지만 노력은 해보고. 그러니까 이제 뭐 극단적인 예를 들자면 이제 김도와 이제 내가 뭐 누가 있어. 그런데 어떤 어린애가 탈모다 그러면은 보통 이제 그러면 안 돼 이러잖아. 그런 거지. 여기 탈모라고 말하면 안 돼? 그건 맞는 말인데 이러면서 얘가 그러면은 이제 맞는 말이니까 얘기하는 거예요. 근데 맞는 말이라도 하면 안 되는 말이야. 그런 얘기지. 제가 뭐 그런 다른 얘기를 한 게 아니라 그런 얘기를 하는 거예요. 그런 차원의 얘기였어요. 혹시라도 이제 뭐 다른 오해가 없기를 바랍니다. 그래 뭐 채팅창에 뭐 대머리 보고 대머리라 해도 된다. 그래 해. 하지만 그 대머리 보고 대머리라고 했다고 그 사람을 때리는 것도 정당방위다. 난 그렇게 생각해. 물론 폭행은 안 되지만 참작이 되겠죠 아마. 법정에 가면 그게 참작이 될 거야 아마. 물론 이제 폭행은 하면 안 됩니다. 폭행 유발죄도 있습니다. 폭행은 물론 하면 안 됩니다.
아니 에반데 저렇게 숨어버려.
죽국이 맛있네요. 그래서 요즘은 이제 나 스스로 성장했다고 느끼는 게 그 내가 원래 이제 정신 연령이 한 5살 정도였거든. 그래도 지금 한 10살 정도로 올라온 것 같아.
오 쉣.
많이 발전했어.
아.
지금은 좀 성장했어.
맞아.
정신 연령 10살 정도로.
씨, 깜짝 놀라.
배움이 끝이 없다. 치지직 링크 고정해달라고. 그거 고정할 수가 있어요? 어떻게 고정하지? 내가 한번 해볼게. 기다려봐. 내가 채팅을 치고 고정하면 되나? 이따가. 이거를 고정을 딱 하면 오, 뭔가 됐어. 나 이 이름 처음 봐. 팔로워가 늘어났다. 이게 갱신이 즉시되는 게 아닌가 봐. 이것들은 아니 뭐 이렇게 어차피 거기서 지금 당장 시작도 안 했는데 써놓을까? 근데 이거 바뀔 수도 있지 않나? 이거 링크 안 바뀌나? 일단은 이거를 해서 내 채널 정보
기주모는 용사 다운을 뭘로 시키고 있는 거지?
치지 프로필 링크.
아 파도 있구나. 원래 전통적으로 파도 쓰는 거 아니야? 멀리서 흰탄질 해야 되는 선수처럼 맛있어. 지금이야 북극성창 전화가 되어오고 지금
양 무슨 잘 먹었다. 쉬어보겠습니다.
저기 있네요. 마녀를 빛으로 다시 인도하죠.
오렌지 광고. 아 여기서는 광고할 필요가 없지.
조심해요. 마녀가 이동해요.
허비 몸무게는 4.3kg.
끝냈어야지.
치 우롱? 우롱차인가? 복숭아 우롱차? 털 좀 그만.
아유 근데 왜 자꾸 PVP가 아니라 PV
빛이 우롱.
이것도 그건가? 초기화 4번 하면 되고 꼴이 더 없어 나와.
물을 넣고
완전 개슈페인 짓을 하는 거야. 연말 연시니까 맞아. 연말 연시니까 가능할지도. 연말 연시 연후니까 가능할지도.
복숭아 향이 나네요. 복숭아 향이 납니다. 3분.
10명 중에 3명은 이제 다른 회사 도와주면서 그 회사를 운영할 자금을 벌어들이는 이제 그런 일을 하는 경우가 있습니다. 꽤 많아요, 그런 회사도. 그리고 이제 그런 부분들에서 지금 많이 좋아진 부분들이 뭐 크라우드 펀딩이 있고 뭐 얼리 액세스 같은 게 있고 이제 이런 식으로 중간에 자금을 조달하는 거지. 그래서 요즘 게임이 많이 나오는 거예요. 중간에 자금 조달할 방법이. 그래도 예전에는 무조건 투자를 받아야 됐거든요. 근데 이제 유저들이 투자해주는 환경이 생겨버렸기 때문에 좋은 게임들이 충분히 완성할 시간을 가지고 만들 수 있게 된 환경이 만들어진 것도 사실이죠. 그만큼 이제 먹튀도 많아지긴 했지만.
Really didn't have a strategy for like maximizing any of that stuff.
You must have been in the meeting when we reviewed all the levels. It was like the first time everybody piled into a room,
Right.
and Gabe had his crazy Hellraiser chair with a beautiful Mac monitor, and we played for 2 days. He played everyone's levels. But I remember one moment, he turned around. He was like this with his hair. He's going, "We're gonna fail. We're gonna fail. We're gonna fail. We're gonna fail. We're gonna fail." And I was just like, it blew me away. I was like, "Oh shit, this isn't good."
You know, we were doing our best trying to make this game into a story, and we had a schedule from Sierra, and it was a tight schedule. That we told them like we're not going to ship this, and we realized that you're not going to pay us to continue development, but we're going to do it anyway.
Late is just for a little while, sucked is forever, right?
아 이게 진짜로 관통하는 지금 밸브를 관통하는 거. 늦게 나오는 건 잠시뿐이지만 실패는 영원하다. 하프라이프 3가 안 나오는 이유겠죠.
알겠다.
지금
대기하겠다.
밸브의 모든 것을 관통하는
안으로 가고 있어요.
We could try to force this thing out the door, but that's not the company we want to be. That's not the people we want to be. That's not the relationship we want to have with our customers.
And so we
근데 니네들 아티팩트 같은 거 말아먹은 적 있긴 한 당연히 실패가 없을 순 없어요. 근데 자신들이 만족하는 거 시장의 반응이라든지 뭐 이런 것도 예측할 수가 없어. 근데 우리가 스스로 인정을 못하는데 게임을 내지는 않겠다는 거야. 결과적으로 실패할 수도 있어. 어떻게 전부 성공할 수 있겠어. 근데 우리가 만족하지 못하는데 우리가 이걸 재밌다고 하지 못하는데 어떻게 게임을 낼 수 있냐 이런 이야기인 거야. 결과적으로 성공한 사람, 성공만 하는 사람은 전 존재하지 않을 거라고 생각해요. 이게 밸브 쉴드의 이야기가 아니라 조롱할 수는 있겠지. 니 그렇게 말했지만 냈는데 실패했잖아. 근데 이제 어쩌라고야 이게 어떻게 보면 어쩌라고 해야 하는 거야. 냈는데 실패할 수 있어요. 근데 나 자신조차 우리조차도 이거를 재밌다고 생각하지 못하는데 낼 수 없다라는 그런 이야기로 받아들여야겠지.
콘솔을 살펴볼게요. 승강기 같아 보이는데.
Kelly and I kind of sat down and sort of tried to take an inventory of all the cool stuff we had built, and why weren't we just building more on top of that? And those discussions kind of led to us building this kind of design call process to try to give some cohesion to the game and kind of changing the way we were approaching it.
And so a cabal was a small group of people, multidisciplinary group. There's like artists, level designers, engineers, everything in that. And a small team that was right at the spec level. There was the art that Mark had written, so we knew how that would fit into the story. And we got a small group of people together, and we started at the beginning. We went through literally what map do we need to build to tell us the story. And then what does that connect to? What's the next piece?
The strongest and most influential thing that came up was, to me, the sketches. And they were really the visual meaning roots, right?
We came up with a formula for how that worked. We had a certain percentage of the time where you were hiding, a certain percentage of the time where you were exploring, a certain percentage of the time where you were solving puzzles.
게임 만들 때 처음에는 작은 게임 만드는 게 좋겠죠. 그럴 수 있겠지만 만들고 싶은 거를 만드는 게 전 제일 좋거든요. 그러니까 뭐냐면 작은데 내가 만들고 싶은 그냥 어떤 예제 프로젝트 뭐 이런 걸로 이제 배우는 건데 결국은 내가 하고 싶은 거 의지가 있을
이런
만한
쉣.
그런 걸 만들어야지 어쨌든 재미를 붙이겠죠. 흥미가 있는 거. RPG 만들기 해본 적 있냐고요? 저는 그거를 초등학교 때부터 했습니다. RPG 찍구를 가지고.
에이, 좀 기사한 놈을 날려.
근데 게임을 내본 적이 없어요. 왜냐면 다 뭔가 초반 마을, 왕궁 뭐 이런 거 만들고 처음에 이제 막 그 하는데 그 뒤에 이제 하나 흐지부지 되기 약간 이런 식으로.
아니 할 수 있어. 할 수 있어.
그런 게 아직 남아 있었더라면 좋았을 텐데. 여러분 보여줄 수 있을 텐데. 아쉽게도 이제 그거 들어있던 하드가 20년 전에 뻥 나가지고 20년 전에 뻥 나가지고 그때 이제 그렇게 데이터를 보존해야 되겠다 생각도 없긴 없었는데.
And so we could apply that uniformly to the network.
처음 게임 만드는데 큰 오픈월드 게임은 무리겠죠. 이미 무리는 없어서 무리인 거죠. 근데 이제 오픈월드 게임도 맞성카처럼 만들어 생각해봐. 그럼 만들 수 있어. 무리하지 않으면. 그리고 지금 이제 물어보는 게 뭐냐면 아예 아무것도 모르잖아. 아무것도 모르니까 이미 이제 물인지 아닌지도 모르는 상황에서 그런 질문을 한다는 거는 애초에 뭐랄까 의미 없는 질문이 되는 거예요. 네, 내가 뭘 할 수 있는지도 모르는데 물이냐 아니냐 이미 해보니까 이거 쉬운데 생각보다 하면서 만들 수 있는 거거든. 그래서 저는 그 질문에 대해서 한다면 만들 수 있습니다. 물이 아닐 수 있어요. 왜냐면 제가 님을 모르잖아요. 근데 이제 만약에 뭐 내가 GTA5 같은 게임 혼자 만들 수 있을까요? 뭐 그건 절대로 불가능이라 말씀드릴 수 있어요. 근데 20년 후면 아마 GTA5 수준의 게임을 혼자서 만들 수 있게 될 겁니다.
Good morning and welcome to the Black Mesa Transit System. This automated train is provided for the security and convenience of the Black Mesa Research Facility personnel.
The whole opening of the game is basically a reaction to how all the other whether they have cutscenes or not, and then like the game just opens without a cutscene, gone. So we could look at examples of all that, and I think there was expectation that that's what Half-Life had to do.
맞아요. 지금 이때 만든 하프라이프를 이거보다 훨씬 더 좋은 퀄리티로, 왜 지금 수준에서 떨어지긴 하겠지만 이때의 하프라이프보다 훨씬 좋은 퀄리티로 하프라이프를 혼자서 만들 수 있습니다. 지금 그냥 오늘 당장 시작해가지고 한 2년만 만들어도 이거보다 훨씬 더 그래픽 좋고 뛰어나다고 평가될 수 있을 만한 하프라이프 1이랑 비교했을 때요. 만들 수 있어요.
I can tell you the number of people who.
근데 이제 지금 나오는 게임의 수준에 비하면 한참 떨어지는 게임이기 때문에 좋은 평가를 받기 힘들겠죠.
Started up the game, we're staring at it, and accidentally bumped their mouse, and realized this is live. Yeah. And as simple as that sounds, it was mind-blowing for some people. Because there's too much going on. This isn't good. Now it's through the way we stumbled through.
하프라이프는 그래도 리마스터 리메이크 장사는 안 해서 좋은 것 같아요. 하프라이프는 안 하죠. 뭘 하냐면 카운터 스트라이크를 하죠. 하프라이프를 리마스터 리메이크로 팔아먹는 것 것보다 더 효율적인 길이 있으니까.
A lot of the new narrative. Do this in a movie or a story, but
You're this anonymous site, you're writing on this word full credit to the tweet. It's so funny to look at it now.
진짜. 저는 저 처음에 모노레일 타고 들어가면 너무 인상적이었어요. 뭐야. 세상에 이런 게임이 있다냐면 진짜 요즘 재밌 뻔한 그런 경험이었어요.
The basic style of some hallway.
지금은 너무 지루하고 하찮은 장면이 있어요.
It more became sort of like I know that did a lot of thought.
Heavily influenced by
하프라이프가 나온 이후로 나온 FPS는 전 단언컨대 모두 하프라이프 영향을 받았다고 생각해요. 하프라이프도 영향받아 나온 게임이지만 이거 이후로 FPS 포토가 바뀌었습니다.
Accidentally blew up. There were a few people who were just
저는 결국 이 하프라이프 같은 상호작용도 듀크 누kem 3D 여기서 굉장히 그 많은 영향을 받았을 거라고 생각하거든요. 근데 그거를 정리된 어떤 형태로 이제 뽑아내게 된 게 하프라이프라고 생각합니다. 이 듀크 누kem 같은 3D 같은 경우는 상호작용이 되게 많긴 했거든요. 근데 그런 상호작용들이 어떤 뭐라고 해야 되나 지역적인 부분에서의 상호작용 단순히 뭔가 이제 작동시킬 수 있다라는 점 그게 어떤 게임 플레이에 영향을 안 끼치는 그런 상호작용이었어요.
All of that stuff had a real kind of eloquence in the late 90s in a world where everything was so but we still got
I think like a super pivotal moment for me was when we came in one morning and we saw that Kelly and John Guthrie and Wedge was in that office, Dario, really, they were all in one John's office where some cool stuff happened. But so Kelly and John stayed up all night and did the test chambers.
1단계 방출기 작전.
and that was a lot going on. This improvisation. What's happened before, what's happened what to do,
헤일로 같은 경우에는 저는 이런 생각해요. 콘솔에서 FPS가 먹힌다라는 사실. 그러니까 콘솔 FPS의 포맷을 만든 게 저는 헤일로라고 생각하고 이제 무기가 여러 개 있는데 두 개로 줄이고 콘솔에 맞게 FPS를 탈바꿈해가지고 그 콘솔에서도 이제 FPS는 먹히는 단위다. 그래서 그 영향을 받아가지고 그 뒤로 이제 거의 모든 FPS 게임들이 두개 만들었어요. 나오게 됐죠. 무기 많아봤자 3개. 원래는 FPS 게임에서 무기는 35가지 막 20개도 막 짊어지고 다니고 이랬는데 2개로 줄였지. 1번부터 9번까지 다 썼잖아. 뭐 거기서 이제 벗어난 FPS 게임도 있긴 하지만 왜냐면 이제 또 그 웨폰 휠이라는 또 UI가 개발되면서 이제 무기를 또 많이 들고 다니는 수 있는 FPS도 있긴 하니까요.
Camera away, we'll turn the lights off, we'll do sound, we'll throw everything. You know, we built that basically that day, just a sort of a one day throw it together. That's how fast it was.
We had audio, right? We had
Yeah, it's like the heartbeat and the breathing, all that stuff was in there. And I played through it, and it was like, damn, I have not seen this in any medium, in anything before, experienced something like this, where this immersive experience is actually happening. And at that point, it's like, okay, I see what it is to do. And it's this kind of immersive, unbroken experience that happens to the player. And then that was the key principle about how, you know, we never take you out of that role.
Personally, after the difference between before the disaster sequence and after the disaster sequence, I felt I had an understanding that this product was going to be special, or if it was going to be possible, it was going to be tied together. Whereas before that, there was a lot of really good stuff and a lot of little things all disconnected. But you guys managed to tie
이거 보니까 게임 개발 빛내기 어려운 것 같은데.
parts of the game
맞습니다.
together really well. And I thought, oh,
왜냐면
we're on
여러분들이 게임할 때 하나도 신경 안 썼던 부분들을 다 신경 쓰는 게 얼마나 힘든 일인지 깨닫게 되는 전 과정이라고 생각해요. 우리는 그냥 뭐 그렇구나 하고 넘어가는 것들이 얼마나 많은 고민을 통해서 나오는 건지 고민하게 되니까.
They had in the contract that we had to go and we got the first 3 levels done for them. It was a really good company. Hey, everything's deliverable. We got it done. And we shipped it off to them. Again, I swear and I was living it. It was stupid. So I was like, oh, I can't believe you guys let this get out. Like, you know, this wasn't us, you know. And then it turned into something amazing where people started playing it. And it was all over, and we started, you know, seeing online what people are thinking about it. And I forget which magazine. So usually we don't review, you know, beta software, but they reviewed it and said this is awesome, and that gave us a tremendous amount of confidence. You know, it was an outside validation of what we were trying to do. You know, that it was right.
I think it's just first-person shooters already they were kind of like the valves of weapons you put in first person. You got to have a shotgun, and there's obviously a pistol. You know, you need your weapon that's going to make you struggle and you drive you to get another weapon.
That was a lesson in how to make all of your weapons as orthogonal as possible, so each one did something completely different. All the crazy weapons, those are my fault. So I did like the rocket launcher and the Gauss gun. The snipes.
Oh, I went snark. Snark's always made me laugh. It's just always funny to watch people on the windows.
It's called the snark. I wanted something, a little creature to bring out the hole out and just run. Because people were camping, and everybody hated campers at that point. So you wanted the anti-camp weapon. But it was kind of, you could literally find a little hiding hole. They're all over the map. I had a cat, and you do your finger through. Yeah, you do your finger towards him, and he'd get mad at you with SWAT. So that was the inspiration for that particular animation. And then the other, that big alien creature with the, we needed some kind of alien weapon. Just drew that one, built that one, animated that one, but that was also another one that whenever you could get in a corner and just shoot them in the air because the hornets would track. I think that was the biggest thrill. Brainstorming
백현이 저기 있네요. 준비됐죠?
crew, making them, building them, putting them in the game, and then playing with them, and then they're flying.
So there's sort of a trouble having, I think it was Yvonne and Brittle and I. One of the devices, it was really good back to that period. But we were just running around like idiots, smacking the wall. The odd thing to do at the time felt profoundly satisfying. That was just
저 이때 게임 생각해 보면 게임하면서 제일 많이 했던 운동이 벽을 친 다음에 데칼이 어떻게 남는가를 진짜 많이 봤던 것 같아요. 뭐냐면 칼이 나오는 게임 있잖아. 칼을 옆으로 휘두르잖아. 그럼 칼 자국이 나는데 그 칼 휘두른 궤적과 데칼이 일치하는가. 뭔가 이런 것들을 되게 많이 봤던 것 같아요. 그러니까 마음대로 막 이렇게 그 스친 자국이 막 돌아가면서 나오는 게임도 있고 마음대로 나오는 것도 있는데 이제 막 이렇게 휘두르면 X자로 이제 칼 자국이 나거나 막 그런 것들.
정신 차려.
총 쏴가지고 글쓰기 뭐.
Fairly abstract notion of what fun was ended up translating into a better
맞죠. 칼인데도 총 자국 남는 것도 있지. 뿅뿅 하면서 요만큼 나가는 총으로 구현해놔가지고 칼 썼는데 갑자기 벽에 총알 구멍 뿅뿅뿅뿅 하면서 나는 그냥 그런 게임들도 있었죠. 장난 사람이 저런 리버브가 엄청 현장감을 많이 줬던 것 같아요.
If the sound could let you know what's going to happen, that's really makes it powerful. So we're already communicating because the AI is from play. So we use the sound to broadcast.
마녀가 도망쳐요. 쫓아가요.
And we started with the beginning. We went through literally what map do we need to build to tell the story. And then what is that? Yeah.
수호자가 쓰러졌습니다.
The way you do your fingers came from the air conditioner.
Tell you injured, broadcasting is constantly used the and what's about to happen. So it is really important to try to keep those states distinct so that as you play the game, you're actually, whether you're aware of it or not, you're starting to be able to tell what's about to happen.
그렇죠. 지금 타르코프를 생각해 보세요. 소리를 내는 거 예측 가능한 게임 만드는 게 중요한 거야. 타르코프에서도 현실적이라고 해주면 스케브들이 끼 하면서 멈블하고 지나가는 게 말이 안 되잖아. 하지만 이게 근처에 적이 있다는 걸 알리기 위해서 멈블 같은 걸 하는 거지. 원원 있다 하면서 그걸로 이제 적 위치를 탐색할 수 있게 도와주는 거야. 안 그러면 그렇게 안 하면 유저 입장에서 어떻게 느끼겠어요? 그냥 지나가다가 스케이프가 갑자기 있어서 총 쐈나 보다. 내가 근데 어떻게 그걸 알고 대처를 하는데 이런 어떤 억울함밖에 안 쌓이겠어. 이게 사람이란 거겠지.
We knew he was a musician too, so he could do sounds, but
그러니까 결국은 게임이라는 게 외우고 뭐 이런 부분도 있겠지만 예측할 수 있게 만드는 부분이 엄청 전 중요하다고 생각해요. 그렇지 않으면 불쾌해지니까 재미가 없어지니까 예측 못하는 걸 재밌어하는 사람도 있긴 하겠지만요.
you know, he also decided he was going to write the sound engine, and then he wrote the soundtrack. And he'd never written a soundtrack before, and he wrote the whole, soundtrack for the game, and he won an award, and it was crazy.
There just weren't that many of us. I have a little bit of a background playing music. I understood the sound engine really well, so it was really easy for me to just put sounds in, and I understood enough about the level design side that I could kind of connect with it. It sounded pretty comfortable. And then I just
그래서 약간 모바일 게임 같은 경우에는 한 가지 더 너무 좋습니다. 뭐냐면 대부분의 모바일 게임을 하는 사람들은 소리를 꺼놓고하거든요. 그러니까 소리만으로 뭔가를 알려줘 버리면 게임 진행이 안 되는 경우들이 있어서 무조건 어떤 시각적으로 그 게임이 변하는 거 뭐 이런 것들을 이제 알려줘야 되는 또 의무가 있어. 자 자막 이런 것보다는 효과라든지
방법을 찾아.
뭔가 대사라든지 이런 걸 통해서
날 다시 데려갈 방법을 제발 끝내줘. 그냥 끝내줘.
그래서 뭔가 소리만으로 힌트를 주거나 이래버리면 진행 불가한 상황들이 나와버리거든.
It's heavily modified. Usually those are animal sounds. Reversing, changing the pitch, chopping them up and rearranging them. Head crabs were rats. The little squeaky, yeah, that's a rat slowed way down and then reversed.
Yeah, the DSP stuff was another cool thing that Kelly built. When you got an event, it sounded like you were an event, and that wasn't really happening, I guess, at least in Quake and other games I was playing back then.
이 소리 진짜 고스러웠어. 저 울리는 소리, 철판 울리는 소리.
Yeah, we had these huge silos, these cavernous spaces.
근데 저번에 하프라이프가 그 25주년 판 하니까 저기서 약간 재밌었던 게 뭐냐면 저렇게 리버브 걸리는 상황에서 UI 소리도 리버브 걸리더라고. 아예 전역으로 그냥 저 리버브를 적용시키는 것 같더라고. 기억나지? 그 UI에서 무기 바꿀 때 그런 소리도 다 리버브 걸려가지고. 자, 화장실 갔다 올게요.
우와.
예. 겨울이 몰래 구독해야지. 완료되었습니다. 전송되었습니다.
The day they had their own echoey DSP, it made an enormous.
지금 영상 보면서 게임 만들던 시절 생각나고 공감도 되고 그렇네. 어떤 게임 만들었었어요? 아, 게임 제목 말고 어떤 류의 게임 만들었었어요? 좀비 아포칼립스 생존 게임. 재밌었겠다.
This difference, right? You believe the space.
이거 졸라 짜증난데.
Kelly tells me, oh God, Chuck
Jones
저
asked him
졸라
if
짜증나는데
the
저번에 할 때도
characters could
개짱나.
speak and have their mouths move. And Kelly said, you know, that's super easy. You know, I could just look at the audio and see if they're talking and do that. But like getting their mouth to move, that's
출첵하지
super,
마,
he
임마.
says to me. And I look, Chuck Jones told me the same thing. I told him making the mouths move was super trivially easy, but knowing when they're talking and knowing how to follow the envelope of the speech would be impossible. And Kelly and I just both looked at each other and like, oh. And so I went back to my office and he went back to his office. And I think within an hour, the characters were talking and their mouths were moving. And it was only because we sat there at lunch bitching about an animator who was 100% right.
Why are you leaving me here?
Scientist conversations, Kelly and I made that. When they're next to each other, one scientist will occasionally play a question and the other one will give him an answer. And it's not a script, you know? It just it might not always make sense.
I am rather looking forward to this analysis, aren't you? I don't think so.
But it had a bunch of personality. It was really cool. And I worked on getting those guys to look at you and turn their heads.
When we first added the ability for scientists to respond to the player and other things in the environment, I would call them response rules. The first time that went in, they came flying down the elevator, and one of them looks at you and goes, "Oh, hello, Gordon." And then they explode into a pile of jibs at the bottom.
The automatic diagnostic and announcement system welcomes you to the Black Mesa Research Facility. Remember, have a secure day.
I hadn't really started working on the biggest part of the game, which I ended up shipping.
이거 감시관의 법률에서 정원 침묵을
Prior to then, a lot of the work that I had done
분당
was
발사수 257.
alien research labs, which turned into questionable ethics.
아, 이연사라고.
And all of that was ditched. There were some concepts made it through, but everything was rebuilt from zero. But you know what did make it through was power up. Yeah, basically that geometry survived completely intact. It was so closely designed for that creature that because the creature survived, the levels survived along with it. Yeah, there's this sort of central circular thing where you have to rotate the train and you have to kill the Gargantua first because he was always defending the way out. And then you have to go to another area which looks very much like it was designed for Quake because pretty much it was. There was a flooded pump room and you have to drain the generator and then you switch the power on and you can take the train out. Yeah, I remember him being totally central to this whole thing. And then, well, how do we block the player? Which is, I mean, that's pretty much like design point number one for all level design. Okay, well, how do we prevent the player from just walking straight out through the exit? And you design backwards from there.
In the first year, we built a lot of world space, a lot of track, as we call it, and the programmers would try to fit the AI into the existing maps. What we did the second year was we built the AI in very constrained environments that showcase the AI. Let's make the ideal space for the AI and then give that to the level designers to incorporate those elements into their map so that it worked better and was more interesting. And that Gargantua was and the grunts especially.
Yeah, we had the AI that Steve had been working on, and he had designed all these interesting encounters with them just in his test map, and so he had him up high and down low, and so basically we just sort of re-leveraged that. So, okay, let's start with the player comes in low, and there's a Marine on the same level, and then the next one they're up high, and then they come running down. Because it was really neat to see them retreat. They'd try to run back up the stairs and try to flank you from the other side.
Steve Bond, like I mentioned earlier, was this really young guy who had been making mods in Quake C, really the designer for so much of the AI. I mean, all the stuff that's good about the soldiers, the grunts you fight in Half-Life.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a language we could sort of use to say, you know, this is a place they can climb, this is a place they can jump to, this is a good place to hide. These are good places to go in general, or interesting places. So, you know, the AI had a little bit of help. trying to build something that utilized, you know, the train technology that Jay was working on. And
we thought, well, let's give the player something that they can control, but in a limited way. We couldn't do vehicles like you see in Half-Life 2. So we did the most constrained vehicle we could think of, which was the train. Players didn't always bring the train with them. And so you had a bunch of these poor people walking down these tunnels.
Oh, is that why you electrified the
And
rail?
yeah, and the rails, that was part of the
Kept
feedback.
dying from that.
Part of the feedback was, well, you can just bypass all this, so we made the rails electric. It's like, well, maybe that'll teach them to bring the train with them. But the basic idea was, let's explore that and then also reveal some of the hidden deep parts of the base, the abandoned areas where you might get a lot more of the Zen creatures. We had designed some of the ones that didn't make it into the game to appear there, bats that would dive bomb you and while you're on the train. Yeah, Stuka bats. And then we also tried hard to not make it feel like it was the super linear thing, so we tried to give little branches, and so there were some challenges there.
Well, there's a really good sketch that Kelly Bailey made, which basically charted surface tension, and it was pretty extensive. Like, it went through the cliffside, and it went through areas where tanks were, and like a lot of soldier holdouts. Yeah, it even went through the desert with the cactuses and the helicopters, and then across a dam. It was pretty extensive. Yeah, when I saw that sketch, I was so motivated to just start building all of that stuff.
So I ran ahead with a lot of level design, a lot of geometry, and it seems like a lot of it stuck in some way or another, which is really amazing. I did the dam, which was funny. I just did that in a day. Like, it was like about 4 or 5 hours. I did a Hoover Dam thing because I like the Hoover Dam.
I saw a concept of the cliffside. I think Harry Teasley built that render of the skybox. Yes. And I just thought, holy crap, this is perfect for Vertigo. Like, whatever we do here, we have to play on Vertigo and narrow little edges and places you would like to normally dodge a grenade that you can't.
And that's the moment. That's really the big part of that level, is that reveal. And the play is kind of supports it afterward. The helicopter comes in, you're fighting the helicopter, which is awesome.
First of all, I had a bunch of textures, and then every time I made new ones, whoever was working on the new levels would be like, oh, fresh textures, I'm going to use those. Somebody making another level would start using them, and I was like, no, this is chaos. We need to restrict this. So I started naming the texture sets by the level that they were made for. I was trying to enforce some sort of like visual cohesion, and so that.
근데 게임 만들 때 초반에 있잖아요. 새로 만들어진 뭔가 에셋을 배치하기 시작하면 다양성이 늘어나고 훨씬 좋아 보이긴 하거든요. 근데 대신에 이제 어떤 일관성이 깨질 수 있겠죠. 그런 이야기입니다.
That really ended up working.
There was one level I did that was the introduction of the sort of the bounce pads, the alien bounce pads in the real world. Because, story-wise, like, okay, you're getting closer to hitting the alien world. So I was, well, let's get a little bit of alien world infection into the real world. So I had done it just as a visual thing. John Guthrie made it 10 times better. And that's actually where he found the photo of my daughter, because I didn't put my daughter in Gordon's locker. I hid her in like this destroyed office someplace, as a little Easter egg for myself. And John went and put my daughter's photo in Gordon's locker, which I think was a good decision.
군체는 수호자가 될 수 없네.
역시 개발진 딸이었죠.
I still get questions about stuff that I spent 5 minutes on 25 years ago from people who've now thought about this for 25 years, and they're thinking that there's 25 years worth of development went into this. I'm like, on some level, when you start talking about lore, I'm like, well, there's Black Mesa. That was just a matter, we needed a name for something that was evocative.
In that entrance, when you get off the train and there's that lobby where there's a big map on it, and when we were making that map, that was fairly early on, I put a dot in New Mexico. And then that turned into, I think Mark saw that, he was like, oh, where is that? This is where we are. And then he named it Black Mesa.
That is a favorite thing of mine, actually. If you come up with a name for something and it evokes something, then you don't have to write the whole story. It's because it's a conspiracy plot.
everybody knows more about it than you do, so you don't have to answer those questions. You just keep raising questions and make the mystery kind of thing.
Like dialogue came in later. Also, a lot of the scripted sequences came in later, and those helped to kind of sharpen the storytelling aspect of it because, I mean, setting expectations to get up to the surface and then like, oh no, they're not here to help us.
The whole thing about diegetic writing, right? Like keeping the exposition in the game instead of outside the game. You know, I give a lot of credit to Mark.
After play tests, we'd realized that maybe you need more of a dialogue cue about something.
That's when we started to do like scientists who were literally pop up in a corner and go that way. There's a few of those that we stuck in right at the end when we'd like, well, we get one more session with Hal. He can say, go down here, you know, go around that corner.
Well, so much for the government. Their idea of containment is to kill everyone associated with the program. I'd say you were part of what went wrong.
I knew Hal from San Francisco as an artist, cartoonist. He was also an animator and an actor in some science fiction movies. So when we got down to the wire, we did a bunch of voice casting and nothing was right. And I just kept thinking of Hal. I finally just called him and said, Hal, I want you to at least talk to people here so they can hear your voice. And I got him on a speakerphone and I had a bunch of people gathered in my office. And I'm like, okay, Hal, everybody's here. And he's like, well, what would you like me to say? And everybody was like, this is him. This is the guy.
Why do we all have to wear these ridiculous ties?
Another interesting voice thing was the G-Man. So we liked Mike Shapiro's work. So we knew we wanted to use him, but we brought him in to do Barney and also the G-Man. So we did a take on all the G-Man lines with kind of a straight voice, and I was thinking that, okay, we have something safe, but we're not super excited about it. And give us something else. And he does this crazy lizard voice.
The border world, then, is in our control for the time being, thanks to you. Quite a nasty piece of work you managed over there. I am impressed.
And we took it back, and everybody just loved the crazy lizard voice. And so that's how it worked out.
Did you do the Nihilanth?
I did.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Nihilanth. Just imagine his head floating in space as a baby.
I went into Gabe's office and I demanded Gabe to either fire Ken or I quit. And Gabe just laughed at me.
Correct response from Gabe.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Until Bill got there, I was the oldest guy there. It was hard because, you know, I had to go home in the evenings, whereas the young guys who just moved out from Florida or wherever, they did not have to go home in the evenings. I'd go home, see my kids when they were in bed. I would come back down the hill to Valve. Nobody else I worked with had to get up to get their kids off to school in the morning, but I did.
You're wired to just take full advantage of the situation. You put everything into it. So when we say we worked 18-hour days, that's no exaggeration.
그러니까 이게 크런치 기간 되면 진짜 다들 미쳐가긴 합니다, 진짜. 아 진짜 비유적인 게 진짜 미쳐가기 시작하기 때문에 진짜 조심해야 돼요.
Not at all. I can edit all day. I can design all day. I don't have to worry about anything. You know, two guys from Microsoft start a game studio with a bunch of incredibly capable, with an incredible team. You're gonna push yourself harder than ever before.
I don't usually crunch real hard. I get it done in I come in, I work, I go home. And a lot of people were living really long hours. The classic, well, come in at 1 and then goof around for a while and then work late into the late at night. I was in place 17. There was a woman that was the office manager, and eventually Mona Lisa Guthrie came in at the desk. I was the only woman on the team. That was not awesome.
I decided to become a baseball fan here after the birth of my first daughter. So she's the one in Gordon's locker, Isabel, that she's very special needs. She's 25 today. Cognitively, she's about 3 years old. So after her birth, in the middle of Half-Life production, it was
It was really hard. It was really hard because we were getting about 2 hours of sleep at a stretch because she had to be fed through a tube in her stomach every 2 hours. I had just a difficult time relating to the world when she was a baby. I had a hard time just talking to people because I was just kind of tired and angry all the time. Yeah, my wife, she worked at Valve for a while. She did a bunch of textures for the game. Like I say, she did those soda machines. She did just a bunch of level textures. She textured Big Mama, the sort of boss creature. She textured him. But when Isabel arrived, she obviously had a lot of issues. So, yeah, it's had to stop working and stay with her at home. And it was the last year of Half-Life, and we pretty much crunched that whole year. So I was at work a lot. It was hard. It was definitely a hard year.
빛의 힘이 있든 없든 군체는 수호자가 될 수 없네.
Games have often had this thing where they're just a little too attached to Star Wars, Blade Runner, Aliens. So it wasn't that hard to try to get people to go, let's think of something really alien. Like what Zen was initially was you're going to go inside a huge alien organism and kill it or figure out how to turn it on or off or something like that. I didn't know we couldn't actually do that or what was involved.
What does it mean to have alien architecture or a planet that's biologically defining the structures in it, as opposed to what the tools were good at, which is making rectangles?
And then slowly it scaled back till it was more and more corridors, and that everybody was really good at.
People were finishing up stuff, and I was still working on Zen, because it was like it went through a lot of iteration, or at least we're trying to figure out what it was. Different people were taking swings at it, either in static
Weren't you
concepts.
under a bit of a timeline crunch for it as well?
Yeah, it was the end of the game.
Yeah.
I wanted to cut stuff out, and they're like, no, leave it in. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have any support for this. And then after a lot of it was built, is like, oh yeah, we're gonna change the gravity and give you a jump pack. That came later. And I was like,
There's a lot of stuff, especially in Zen, where you're getting close to a first draft of some things, right? Because we just didn't have time, and we got to the end of the game, and so we considered not going to Zen, but the art concepts people did were so cool.
For the Zen textures, I was deeply inspired by electron microscope imagery, and we had so much of that regular structural texture material that I wanted to do something more organic. Insects as well. I think there's a lot of